Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Patrick. I have the great privilege of being the pastor of the community here at North Decatur, and I'm so excited for you to continue journeying with us this week through the book of Acts. Today we're starting in the 9th chapter in the book of Acts, which is a really sort of a hinge point for the rest of the story. Up to this point, we've met this character named Saul, who has been overseeing the persecution of the first followers of Christ in every opportunity possible. He was there to supervise and approve the death of Stephen, which we learned about. He's been a persistent and consistent threat to the community of faith for, really since Jesus' resurrection and ascension. He's been present to bring torment, to bring suffering, to the first followers of Jesus. And so now we see this character Saul struck blind, and then we see the beginnings of a transformation in his life. He meets the risen Christ, and they have a powerful conversation that awakens Saul to something new. It awakens him to a reality that he hadn't been aware of before, and it offers him an opportunity for conversion, and that is what happens. His heart, his mind are transformed to be of love, and to bring that love and that reconciliation brought only through Christ into the world. It's really because of Saul, who will become Paul. It's because of his ministry that most of us are followers of Christ. In the beginning of the movement, it was inside the parameters of the Hebrew people. It was sort of an ethnic, a cultural religion for a people who are all descendants of the same forefathers and mothers. But now, because of Saul, who goes out into the world and starts bringing new Gentile communities into the community of faith, and problematizing the idea of strictly adhering to the laws of Torah, and challenging us to live a more abundant and hopeful view of Scripture, and a more abundant and hopeful view of God, and live out of that. That begins the movement for all of us to be able to participate in this thing called faith, and this walk of life that we have together. So what that reminds me of is that sometimes our greatest enemies can become our strongest allies. And I know for a lot of us in this season, where we are feeling so polarized, and we're starting to identify internally as either left or right, liberal or conservative, progressive or conservative, inclusive or traditional, and we start drawing lines around who we would align with and why, and we start making of all these other people enemies. And a lot of times when we start creating and defining other people as enemies in our lives, we see nothing but the threat that they pose to us. And I think a lot of us are in that place right now. I know some of us have a really hard time seeing any good in various national and community leaders. I know some of us have a really hard time seeing any good in people who have been family, or people who have been friends, or people who we communicate with on social media, which I would recommend stepping back from probably. But we create enemies out of people, all of whom have been gifted life by God, all of whom carry with them the breath of God. Each of the people that we interact with is connected and deeply rooted in the presence of God, and yet we make enemies out of them. So Saul's conversion, which is really what we'll be talking about all week this week, is a really helpful passage for us to step back from our ego's claim that anyone not like me is an enemy to me, and see how God can work to transform the boundaries that we create in our lives, where we have friends and we have enemies, to see a more broad and encompassing view where even Saul of Tarsus can be included in this beloved community. So it makes me wonder, who is your even person? If it was even Saul who could be loved by God and brought into this dynamic family, this dynamic community of faith, who is it that you would be shocked by to see as a part of this walk of faith with you? Who would you be hesitant, like Ananias, to let into your home because of the fear that wells up, because of the boundaries that we've created around people and places? So anyway, I'm looking forward to engaging in this conversation with you over the next week. I'm really excited to see where Edry and Tyler and Brittany and Rachel take this story. And I'm excited to see how we all might be transformed to live out of this sense of love for all people. Please be sure to like the video, comment below if you have any thoughts or questions, and otherwise I look forward to seeing you at least on Sunday, but hopefully throughout the week online. Take care, y'all. Bye.